So, Miss HeartSong, tell me what's on your mind.
Well, I guess panic.
Oh my, this is something you think about often?
Well, yes and no. You see, because of my past and everything, I am prone to panic attacks. I am in a better state now than before, but I still have moments of panic, mostly in social situations.
I see. Do you suppose these feelings have gotten any better or worse over time?
That is part of the reason why I've been thinking about panic lately. I honestly cannot tell. Being in a safer place means I don't have panic attacks as often, but I don't know if they get better. Sometimes I think that they will never truly get better. I will simply get better at recognizing when they start and avoiding them.
But you've been worried about having to make the best of a bad situation? Unable to find a cure and just having to deal with a short-term solution wherever possible?
Yes, I honestly think I have come to the point that I have accepted my brokenness. I know that my scars run deep and that they affect me. Maybe in time, they will fully heal. What worries me is how others will perceive me in my worst state.
Have you had any past experiences where someone you know had reacted negatively to one of your moments of panic? Anyone who hadn't taken the time to understand why it happened?
All the time. But it doesn't have to be a huge episode for me to get scared in a social situation, or for it to be misinterpreted. The worst episode I ever had was at work. I freaked out, fell on the floor screaming, "Don't look at me," crying in the fetal position. I feel horrible that I ever got so far. And worse, because I know the entire thing could have been avoided.
I can only imagine just how hard that would have been for you. I know that I've had moments of losing myself to overwhelming anxiety, but I admit that I've not had to go through anything quite so...
I understand. There aren't many words to describe that situation, or that type of intensity. But I know that I'm not alone in these types of frustrations and feelings, which is what leads me to the biggest reason why I've been thinking about panic lately.
And what might that be, Miss HeartSong?
Nobody talks about it.
And how very unfortunate that is. I honestly believe that holding such experiences in all the time, keeping them to yourself because you fear what others might think, is perhaps the worst way you can deal with such trauma. If there is anything essential that I have learned from starting the Moment with Dr. Wolf series, it is that there are so very many people out there who honestly wish that others had started talking about all these different topics far sooner.
Exactly. I know myself when I am beginning to panic. I know myself that if I explain to people what is going on beforehand, I can prevent a problem from ever happening. My panic only gets out of hand when I bottle it in out of fear, out of how my peers will react to me. But after I become so upset, I become too scared to tell my peers what is going on. It makes me so frustrated because I know I am not alone in this. I know other people can and will understand, but nobody talks about it. It feels taboo to have problems, even if I know it isn't.
I know that feeling of dread all too well. That hesitation of showing my weaknesses because of how others might react. We all have flaws. We all have to struggle. Just because each of us have to deal with different kinds of problems doesn't mean we cannot learn anything by talking about them. I know from personal experience that drawing into yourself and constantly worrying about any possible negative consequences from ever opening up, it tends to make things worse in the long run. It will hurt. And though we would prefer to only talk with others that have our absolute trust and faith, I admit that there are times when we cannot achieve that level of trust with anyone until after we have made ourselves just a bit vulnerable. What do you think, Miss HeartSong?
I agree, 100%, but nobody talks about it. Schools, TV shows, movies, news reports. Everybody talks about how some people have social anxiety. They all mention that panic happens, how to calm yourself down and all those nice things. But they never talk about it. And that is the problem. People who do panic feel segregated and like they are horrible, broken people. They believe that they are far worse than anyone else because they have never been told that what they are experiencing, in all honesty, is normal. I want people to talk about panic. I want people to tear into the ugly, weak, and broken side of themselves and show the world that we are all human. But it isn't so easy.
Well, I suppose we really shouldn't be striving for what's easy in life. We should be striving for what is worthwhile. And more often than not, what's easy and what's worth it are not the same thing. I hope that more people come to realize this truth about life, even though it is a rather harsh sort of truth.
If I could expose myself at my worst, I would. If it meant that others would feel safe to express themselves in a heartbeat, I would. But would it make a difference? Would they really understand?
I suppose only time will tell. But I, for one, am glad that you felt up to talking about something traumatic in a deeply heartfelt way. I hope that many others will find comfort in acknowledging their own weaknesses from time to time. Shall we continue on this next week?
Maybe I will. Or maybe I should. Talking always helps. And maybe practice anywhere I can is exactly what I need to get a permanent solution to my problem, instead of my short-term avoidance one.
I look forward to helping you find that long-term solution. Take care, Miss HeartSong. It's good to be helping.